meeting with the offering of the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Brandon McCullough. Please rise. Thank you, Mr. McCullough. Welcome to the 1963rd regular meeting of the Livonia City Council. This is a regular meeting, and the minutes of this meeting will be approved at the next regular meeting held on Monday, March 13th of 2023. Ms. Nash, please take the roll.
Councilmember McCullough.
Here.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Here.
Vice President Toy. Here. Councilmember Barr.
Here.
Councilmember Donovic.
Here.
Councilmember Morgan.
Here.
President Jolly.
Present. The council is all present tonight. At this time, I would entertain a motion for the meeting minutes of February 13 of 2023.
So move.
Support.
Motion by McCullough, support by Vice President Toy. Are there any additions or amendments from the council or the audience? I see none. Ms. Nash, please take the vote.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. The minutes are approved. At this time, the council set aside 30 minutes at the beginning of the meeting for audience members to address any items of concern that are not on the agenda this evening. Is there anybody for audience communication at this time? I see none. We'll go to council announcements. Does anybody on the council have any announcements? Mr. Barr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had meant to do this last time, and I forgot, and she has no idea that this is coming, but I want to acknowledge one of our colleagues here. Councilwoman McIntyre was recognized as a Volunteer of the Month for the My Work Matters with Anastasia and Katie's Coffee Shop. And I just know she's very involved over there, and this had come across my desk, and I just thought it'd be worthwhile to congratulate our colleague on that and for her involvement with that effort. So.
Thank you, Mr. Barr.
Thank you. Congratulations. Anybody else from the council? I see none. I'm going to take just a moment here. So today is a special day in the Jolly House. Today would have been the first birthday of our son, Gabriel, who passed away the same day he was born last year. So I haven't really spoken a whole lot about this in public, but I wanted to acknowledge today as something special for us, and I'm going to tell everybody that I'm going to be leaving after the regular meeting so I can spend the time with the family tonight. My kids baked a cake for Gabe, and we plan on celebrating everything and all the blessings that we have. So I'd also like to thank everybody who's showed us love and support and kindness over the last year. It's really meant a lot to all of us, so I just want to thank everybody, and I appreciate everything. So with that being said, we will move on to the agenda this evening, but before we do that, Ms. Nash, I believe we have to go to you for a notice of some sort. I'll let you explain.
Thank you, Mr. President. Per the Livonia Charter, Chapter 4, Section 24, veto, the mayor filed with the clerk's office on February 15th a veto for council resolution 047-23. The charter requires that the mayor to state her reasons for said veto, which she does in the letter, and for the clerk to present the veto to council at the next regular meeting, which I'm doing now. All members of council were sent a copy of the letter via email, and I have physical copies on hand if anyone wishes one. If you have any further questions in regards to this, Mr. Neville is here from the law department with me.
Thank you, Ms. Nash. Mr. Barr?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to formally offer a motion for overturning that veto per the charter, or which the charter allows us to do.
Support.
Okay, is there any comment from the council?
Mr. President.
Mr. Barr?
I'd like to, I think it's appropriate. Look, I understand what the vote was last time, but I feel strongly enough about this that I'd like to provide one more opportunity for some of my colleagues to reconsider. And I'll start by just reminding everyone of what council's role is within city government. First of all, it's to make law. This position that we're talking about here was created by an ordinance that we passed 2.5 years ago. Second thing that very important function that we have is it's council's responsibility to control the purse. We're the ones that are the taxpayers' representatives to determine how the city's money is spent. And then third is we have a responsibility when we feel appropriate to checks and balances, to check the executive branch. And so what is this that we're talking about here? What this was a budget amendment proposed by me. It passed 4-3 last time, but as you heard, it was vetoed by the mayor. A budget amendment to reallocate approximately $133,000 from the Department of Governmental Affairs to the Building Improvement Fund for the remainder of this fiscal year. Why do this now? It's because the position that we're talking about is currently vacant, and so we're not threatening someone's job for doing it now. It was a good time to reassess the purpose and the value of this position. So the reasons that I think it's important for this council to pass this budget amendment, number one, that position has not been used for the purpose that it was created. In reality, and I should back up here, what it was created for, and it was at the mayor's request when we created it a few years ago, was to serve essentially as a liaison for the city to other governmental entities, most specifically the state and the county. It has not been used for this purpose. In reality, it has been used for coordinating events and for relaying messages to council and community residents, both of which are redundant functions that are already covered by multiple other people within the mayor's office. Second, we've already hired an outside lobbying firm last March to perform the very function that this position was supposed to provide. And then third, I believe we have a greater need to save money for large building and infrastructure improvements that are coming our way. This is something, too, that the mayor, I feel correctly, is sounding the alarm about. We actually have a committee meeting this coming Wednesday to review an audit of all of our city facilities for that purpose. And I'm expecting the anticipated price tag of those improvements over a period of years, of course, to be high. That money is all going to have to come from somewhere. I don't think any of us want to see tax increases to raise it, and so it's important that we're regularly putting aside money to save for these things, just like we do with our household expenses. So bottom line is, we are stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. I strongly believe that this money would be more effective saving for future building infrastructure improvements than what it's currently being allotted for. And some might downplay the amount, but as is the nature of saving, it's responsible steps like these that over time add up and put us in a position to afford those large capital improvements as the need for them arises without having to ask our residents for more money. The mayor, as you've heard, has vetoed this decision. I would urge my colleagues, especially those that claim to guard against the growth of government and keep our city expenses and thus our taxes as low as possible, to join me in overriding this tonight. Again, it's simply the most responsible thing to do with our taxpayers' money. And one final note, Mr. President, before I pass it back to you. This is simply a defunding for this budget year. The position still exists. Thus, if the administration wants to make the case for refunding this position in next year's budget, I, for one, welcome that discussion. And for now, the position isn't filled, and we can use that money better elsewhere. So, thanks, Mr. President, for allowing me to walk through that.
Thank you. Vice President Toy.
Thank you. I think the record will show what I've spoken on this issue before, that we've had it before us in a study session and in a regular session, has been alluded to a vote. My concern, once again, is briefly, I'll give you just a small part of my concern is the money that is coming down from the federal government and that the government has in its possession, the feds, as well as the state, as well as the county, are swimming, literally swimming in money. And it behooves us to have somebody in that spot to grab that money and run with it for our city, whether it be for buildings, infrastructure on those buildings, or whatever this council deems, and/or the mayor. I think that's where the important part is. The 133 estimated dollars for that position may turn into just literally thousands of dollars if done correctly. And I mean, you can't think that you cannot make more money by positioning Livonia amongst this state and amongst this country. I mean, we've got some wonderful assets. And I think with the right person in that job And the right person that will bring upon good change, working with our good department heads and our good employees in this city, we will bring wonderful things with those much-needed dollars. And they're there now, not in the future. Maybe they will be in the future, but I don't want to take that risk. Thank you.
Ms. McIntyre?
I was hoping that we would not just simply have a reiteration of the discussion we had 2 weeks ago, but Councilwoman Toy has suggested that this person's role will be a state and federal lobbyist. Number one, the exact wording, Councilwoman Toy, was the state and the federal government are swimming in money and we need someone to go get it. State lobbying in Michigan is done by registered lobbyists. I have never heard the mayor in any way suggest that this position was going to be filled by a state lobbyist. That's who lobbies in Lansing, state registered lobbyists. Federal lobbyists are a breed unto themselves. Very, very few cities have federal lobbyists. New York City, Detroit probably has one or shares one with some other Michigan cities. But the idea that we would be hiring someone in the mayor's office to go to Washington and lobby is simply absurd. I worked for Ford Motor Company in governmental affairs, and the people that go lobby in Washington, D.C. are incredibly specialized people who have relationships with Congress, who have relationships with federal staff members and agencies. So the idea that this position is being funded to go lobby and get money, I just reject that on its face. And part of the role that the job was going to fill was being our liaison with Wayne County, where there is money and where we have relationships with 3 Wayne County commissioners. But that was part of this job description for the position that's no longer filled. Well, we still had someone in that job. The mayor hired, with council's approval, the mayor hired lobbyists to cover that Wayne County portion, and also the people we hired are registered lobbyists in Michigan. So they're fully able to do any lobbying that we need to do in Michigan. If we needed additional lobbying in Lansing, I am sure that the mayor would have come to us with a request to increase the contract for our lobbyists. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Vice President Toy.
I don't mean to say that this position is just for lobbyists. That was a suggestion that there's multi-client lobbyists that lobby for the state and the federal, as you pointed out, with the county, with the state, that those lobbyists can go over there as well and lobby. I'm not only talking about a lobbyist, I'm talking about a person, whoever possesses that talent, which, as you alluded to, and others have, that it is very important to know what you're doing. But I'm telling you, the money is out there. Talk to your representatives, talk to your state senator, talk to your Congress people. The money is out there, and we need to show cause for what we're trying to do with whatever priorities we're trying to do. Those have not totally been identified yet. I empathize with that, yet I think to do it, the timing is off. To do it at this time, and I said that earlier, is not it. But it's not only considering lobbyists. It could be any person that could get their arms around what goes on in Lansing, what goes on in the federal government, and what goes on in Wayne County. There's hundreds of people in Lansing that do that exact work. You know, individuals.
They're lobbyists.
No, they aren't. They're individuals.
Mr. McCullough?
Thank you, Council President. I will not be supporting this override as well. When we look at different things, we have staff, we hire consultants. The city has contracts with consulting firms. Why is that? Why do we hire geotech? Why do we hire other firms to do our road design? It's because these are professionals in that field. But we also still have experienced and educated staff that work for the city that manage these contracts. And like Councilwoman Toy brought up, it might not be licensed lobbying firms for feds and states, but there's grants. And last meeting I brought that up. There's thousands of grants that are out there. And they don't need a required certification to be a lobbyist to apply for them. And so going back to the other topic of saving the $130,000, or forgive me, I know I'm off on the change, But we do have a building reserve fund, and for at least one fiscal year, I'd rather put this money into a position that could get us some more funds. Again, there's thousands of things out there, and I think we're behind the ball on a lot. We want to talk about economic development. You look around the city, we have needs, and this is a position that we could hold someone's feet to the fire, and that's what I'm going to be supporting. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just one last time, if I may.
Ms. Toy?
As my memory bank serves me, Livonia Public Schools had Mr. Dunn that served kind of in this same capacity, that went around and basically visited different venues in both Lansing County. I'm not sure about the federal. I'm really not. But I know that he was very instrumental in, as we built Livonia schools years back. And that's so important to do. You know, I just would like to, you know, look at this in a different light. In perhaps, you know, you could do, if you really want to attack this issue, if that's what it's about, then you should do it like an advise and consent, where it will come before us and we can talk to that person, interview that person as well. If we feel that it's a person or whoever it is, you could always do an advise and consent. And I'm going to offer that
Point
as
of
a sub-
information,
well,
Mr. Chair.
as a substitution, Mr. Chair, if I have support.
I'll support.
Point of information.
Ms. McIntyre?
Mr. City Attorney, Mr. Neville, 2 weeks ago when we discussed this, Mr. Bernier pointed out correctly that the charter gives the mayor the sole, and it's not in the ordinance for each position. It's in the charter that the mayor is given the right to appoint, and any of the department heads that are not appointed by a commission, that are appointed by the mayor has the exclusive right to appoint those department heads. So if we offered a resolution that we were going to take that over, it means nothing because it's contrary to the charter. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
With that understanding, Ms. Toy, do you want to remove that motion?
I'll remove it, but I think there could be some other approaches that we could study a bit. I know what the charter does. Other mayors have, you know, that position was part of the council office, and under the guise of Councilwoman McIntyre and Vice President Barr, they negotiated kind of this new position. So the mayor still had the right to appoint. So I understand what you're saying. I was hoping that maybe we could do an advise and consent, and that might make people feel more comfortable. That's the only reason I was trying to put that forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barr.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having opened this up tonight and having been able to hear the comments, thanks for just giving me a chance to respond to a few of them. Just making some notes here. First of all, Councilman McCullough, you know, correctly referred to our building improvement fund, which is where I'm proposing this money to go. And you know, and he correctly said we need to have money in that fund. I for one have been beating the drum for a long time, the years since it's been created, that we should be on a consistent basis putting money aside as savings into that fund. Again, just like we all do with our household budgets. That request has been rejected by this administration during our budget proceedings. I'm trying in one small way here to get some money starting to move in that direction so that we can begin saving for these expenses that we know are coming. Number two, as far as getting grants, there is a lot of grant money out there, and our city pulls in grant money every single year. Council has to accept some of that grant money. Many of our department heads are well-versed. I see one department head in the audience tonight who I know specifically has gotten grant money for us. Our city administration already is equipped to go and get that grant money. And when it comes to some of the bigger projects, as Councilwoman Toy referenced, we have state representatives, we have a state senator, we have federal representatives. And I believe the city already has somebody who the taxpayers have chosen to work with those people to go advocate for the city and go get that money. And that person is the mayor. It's the mayor's job. This position, as it's defined right now, did not exist until we created it 2.5 years ago. And it was created at the request of the mayor. It was done Because frankly, and I'll just tell you, without going into a ton of details, it was in a meeting with the mayor that I asked her to make the case for this position that I knew she wanted, and she made a compelling case. And I told her that. And I supported the creation of this position. But in the 2.5 years since it's been there, it has not been used for the purpose that it was created. And we've got bigger needs for this money. Thanks.
Any audience comment on this proposed veto override? I see none. Ms. Nash, please take the vote.
Councilmember McCullough?
No.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Aye.
Vice President Toy?
No,
Councilmember Barr?
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic?
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan?
Aye.
President Jolly?
No. So the measure requiring 5 votes to override the mayoral veto has failed. With that being said, we will move on to the scheduled agenda, starting with reports from the mayor and other city officials. We have a communication from the Department of Finance dated February 7, 2023, forwarding departmental purchase reports for the month ending in January 31, 2023. Also, a communication from the Department of Finance dated February 7, forwarding quarterly investment reports for the city of Livonia for the quarter ending November 30th of 2022. With that being said, we will move to the consent agenda. Tonight, that is items 1 through 18. These items were previously studied at the study meeting and found to not require any additional study and will be voted on as a single item.
so moved.
Support.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Toy with support from McCullough. Is there any audience comment on the consent agenda? I see none. Ms. Nash, please take the vote.
Councilmember McCullough?
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Aye.
Vice President Toy?
Aye,
Councilmember Barr?
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic?
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan?
Aye.
President Jolly?
Aye. Excuse me, aye. The consent agenda does pass. We'll move on to item number 19, that's unfinished business. Tonight, that's the appointment of Ann Morris to the Livonia Board of Review from the Office of the Mayor for a 3-year term expiring February 16 of 2026. Do we, who will be speaking on, well, can I have a motion first off? This is a regular meeting.
I'll offer approving.
Support.
Okay, approving from McCullough, support from McIntyre. Do we have any introduction from the administration? Mr. Neville, will you be doing that tonight, or?
Yes, Mr. President. I'm sorry. And that's item 11?
Leo, pull the mic in front of your,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I know that this was the appointment of Ann Morris, or, correct?
correct.
All right. And so, and I know that based on her experience that I'm aware of and that our department is aware of, that she would be a worthy candidate for that position.
Thank you, Mr. Neville. Yeah, so basically, you were on the study agenda, and because we understand the mayor had asked you with relatively short notice, you were not able to attend the study agenda meeting, or the study meeting.
Correct.
So as is customary, we've asked you to come here tonight. You do have a motion to approve your candidacy. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, can you hear me?
We
Okay.
can, yeah.
So I'm Ann Morris. I've lived in Livonia for 16 years, almost 17 years, raised my kids here. I work at Madonna University, the full time I've lived here. Right now I'm part-time at Madonna because I'm working on a project with the Legacy Center out in Brighton. We're starting a prep school at Madonna. So I work both at Madonna as a professor, and then I work with Legacy to work on this prep school initiative. I don't know what else you want to know. I got a bachelor's from Michigan, and I went to University of Dayton for my master's. I went back to Michigan for my doctorate. Work in educational leadership, so my students are all teachers, principals that want to move on in their career. Be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Sounds good. Anybody from the council? Okay, so you should be a good reviewer of these applications that come before you.
I'm pretty good at reviewing stuff, yeah.
Good. You don't have to grade them, you just have to,
Pen,
yeah,
red
it's just
pen
a
or
yes or
blue,
no,
yeah.
I think. But, okay, is there any comment from the audience in regards to Dr. Morris's appointment here? I see none. Ms. Nash, will you take the vote, please?
Councilmember McCullough?
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donavick.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. So you are approved, and we appreciate your willingness to serve in this capacity, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 20 is the reappointment of Laura Weingarten to the Livonia Board of Ethics from the Office of the Mayor for a 3-year term expiring March 1 of 2026.
So move.
Support.
We have a motion from Toy and support from McCullough. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you tonight? We know who you are, but can you give us a little bit of an introduction?
Sure. Good evening to everyone. My name is Laura Weingarten. I have been on the Ethics Board since its inception, which I think was 1997. I've lived in Livonia since 1986. I'm a retired Wayne County prosecuting attorney. I worked there for 33 years. Now I work for the state of Michigan for the Michigan Judicial Tenure Commission, which is an agency that investigates complaints against judges and pursues charges if warranted. I raised my children here. My husband is here in support. I don't think he'll object.
He kind of gave you a little wink, I don't know.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the council?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Toy?
I want to thank you for your service, and I think we all do in the city. Like you said, you pointed out, you've been on it since its inception, so you've seen people come and go, and you've seen people in good light and bad light, and appreciate your skill sets that you bring forward to it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for still being here. Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
If there's no comment from the audience, Ms. Nash, will you take the vote?
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donavick.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. So item 20, the appointment of Laura Weingarten, the reappointment, excuse me, has passed. We'll move on to new business. Item 21, acceptance of donations from the Department of Parks and Rec. These are cash and gifts from various contributors to be used for the purposes they have designated. Can I have a motion?
Mr. President, I'll offer an approving.
Support.
Support.
Approving from Donavick, support from Toy. Mr. Davis?
Thank you, Council President Jolly. I just wanted to take a moment of council's time and highlight some of the many donations we had, but we had some very large contributions this year. Hardy's Family Trust, $30,000 for Green Meat Ice Rink design services, $10,000 for Shakespeare in the Park. Trinity Sports Performance, $20,000 for 100 Days to Health. Masco Corp., $20,000 for Night of Lights. And Chilani Charitable Foundation, $250,000 for the Ben Chilani play area. So again, I'd like to thank all the organizations that have donated to us very generously, but those in particular, some very significant dollar figures there, and we thank them for their support.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, and thank you for your work bringing those in.
You're very welcome.
Is there any comment from the council? Mr. Donavick, then Mr. Barr?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Davis, I'd just like to say hats off to you. I know you and your team constantly are working with different organizations in the city to really strengthen these partnerships. And it's not like people just do, I mean, they really do it out of the sincerity of their heart, but you and your staff are really going out there and cultivating those relationships and making Livonia a destination where people want to contribute their donor dollars, and that's no small effort. So please take that back to your team that I sincerely appreciate. I know everyone on council does as well. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Mr. Barr?
Just a question.
Sure.
Even after my time on council, I'm still learning, and I've maybe even asked you this before, Ted. So
We all
forgive me,
are.
But you know, a number of the things on here, are obviously things that we've already accepted and been spent. Is this a charter requirement that council has to approve these things, or is this just a formality? I'm just curious what the
I'm not sure
procedural
if it's
reason is
a
for us
charter
doing this.
requirement, but it's something, I've been here coming up on 8 years, and we've done this every single year.
Yeah. I've probably asked you before.
I'm not sure this feels new. I'm not sure if it's a requirement. It certainly feels that way, even though we've already accepted these donations, and certainly, again, we thank all of our sponsors for everything they've done for us.
I'm getting the eye from our council president. He might know the answer, so.
Mr. Barr, only because I think this was asked before. I think that this started as more of a report out.
Okay.
So that we could highlight and thank those who had donated.
Got it.
And sometimes they are very large donations, and other times they were very small donations, and we wanted to recognize them, but thank you.
I just want to thank Anonymous for the $1 for the big picnic on July 9th, 2022, so.
Every little bit helps.
Mr. McCullough?
Thank you, Council President. awesome, incredible work by your team and everybody that's out there to donate those funds. I mean, that is substantial. And I'm sure that there's probably a mountain list of ones that are even lower. So everybody that has contributed, huge thank you, and thank you to your staff for pulling that together.
Thank you.
Ms. McIntyre?
Since Mr. Davis is here, there's something that I'd like to mention. On the week of Valentine's, I was out walking in one of the nature preserves, and some well-meaning person, I'm sure, had tacked up these little Valentine cards all over the trees. And they were like little thumbprints wishing people happy Valentine's. They were adorable. And I think the gesture is lovely, but there are two issues. Number one, these are very unlikely to be seen and received by people. There are always nursing homes in Livonia, our senior center, a lot of places that if someone wishes to make up these really, and sorry I didn't bring it with me, they were like the size of an index card. Take the time to make up these really adorable Valentines, and they were little puns with, using fingerprints for little people. There are places that these could be taken, that they would be received and really mean a lot to people. And the other problem is, people don't think about this when they put things up in our parks or our nature preserves. They were tacked up with the little clear bulletin board push pins. Those are plastic, they do not biodegrade, and even more concerning, they have a pin in them, and they can look to animals, things can appear as food. So I'd just like to encourage anyone who's tempted to leave any nice greetings or anything in our nature preserves or our parks or natural areas, that if you'd like to make these greetings, take them to one of the many places in Livonia where people would love to get them. And please do not use any kind of non-natural materials. You shouldn't be tacking anything up to the trees or the facilities or amenities in our parks. Thank
Always
you,
good
Mr.
advice.
Davis.
Okay. Is there any comments about the donations? Item 21 from the audience. I see none. Ms. Nash, will you please take the vote to formally accept?
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Item 21 is approved. Item 22 is a request to adopt an updated performance resolution coming to us from the Engineering Division as requested by the Michigan Department of Transportation as verification that a governmental body will fulfill permit requirements for work performed on state highways. Can I have a motion?
So moved, McIntyre.
Support.
Approving by McIntyre, support from McCullough. We'll go to Mr. Zalinsik to give us information here.
Thank you, Council President. Obviously, MDOT wants to make sure that their resolution is updated. There was just a couple word changes since 2017. Make sure the lawyer checked it out. So there's two items, one from governmental agency to municipality, and the other one, they changed the wording, I think, from agreement to resolution. So just want to make sure we're up to par, so we can actually perform any emergency repairs, such as water main breaks or road repairs in the MDOT right away. So appreciate your assistance, so we can expedite this, and in case anything happens, make sure we're in compliance.
Thank you, sir. Any audience comments on item 22? I see none. Ms. Nash, please take the vote.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. 22 is approved. Thank you, Mr. Zalinsik. Item 23 is a request for additional expenditure from Engineering Division for the 2022 Concrete Road Program, Contract 22C, in the not-to-exceed amount of $1,467,000, in the new total not-to-exceed of $6,464,997.21, noting Council Resolution 88-22. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion from Toy, support from Donovic. Mr. Zalinsik, can you give us some details here?
Sure. Obviously, you want to make sure that we take advantage of the best price we can get for the concrete streets. A lot of these are industrial streets that are 8 or 9 inches thick. So we wanted to make sure we can take advantage of some of the areas that didn't complete. Instead of having two contractors go back, such as Industrial and Ellen, we thought it was beneficial to go and have Hard Rock complete those areas, since they're going to be working there anyway. And waiting for the opportunity to complete Sears Drive, which is going to be in close proximity of some other work. They redid the signal at Sears Drive, and also Ashley Capital had bought the property at the end to help do improvements, so now's the time to complete that street. We've been on our radar for 7 years, the first 500 feet off of Plymouth Road, and obviously westbound Linden after the spree. We want to try to get that last piece completed from Stark to Farmington. So we want to take advantage of the prices, which will reduce the 23C program, which is out for bids right now, the concrete program for 23. So bid opening is March 7th, and again, you'll see the reduction, trying to take advantage of the prices now, and bring forward to you guys the residential streets coming up for the 23 program, and appreciate your efforts for the millage.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Donovic.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the engineering department for seeing this and trying to cut some costs and using efficient government. It's pretty good. Only complaint I have is AEW, Scott, and his hockey playing skills. Just to bring this council back a few weeks ago, he switched teams, went to the Red Wings, and scored a lot of goals on Livonia All-Star team. So other than that, Mr. Engineer, I'm pretty happy with the overall agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any audience comments on 23? I see none. Ms. Nash, please take the vote.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. 23 is approved. We will go back to audience communication. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to the council about anything that is not on the agenda this evening? Good evening, ma'am. Your name, please?
Deb Christensen, Livonia resident. I was here, I think, last month, and there was a big crowd about the Noble Library. I don't know if anybody had a chance on council to read that lovely article that was in the paper recently, and that we showed a lot of love to the Noble Library. I just wanted to share my story. I've been a member or a resident of Livonia, grew up here, South Sider, bought my house, South Sider. Without giving my age away, I've lived here for about 54 years out of my so many years of my life. So most of my life, and always a South Sider. Noble Library, I grew up on Farmington Road near Joy. Noble Library was my library as a kid, as a girl. Would drive my bike up there during the summers after school. It was my safe place to go to. And when my kids, again, South Side, I am not adjacent to that neighborhood where the library is, but that was our library, because this is obviously, you know, I'm a South Sider, and would take my kids there. We would go there multiple times a week, just sit on the pillows and read books, take out movies when movies were a thing back then, and do that. For years we would do that with the kids, both my husband and I, who's here tonight too. So as nostalgic as I can be about this, that's one thing, but the other thing is that this is an iconic building, and people are gonna maybe roll their eyes at me when I say that this is a historical building, but it is. Just look around Livonia. There's nothing else like it here. And I urge you, if it comes to you for a vote, that you save this building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's nobody else for audience comments, we will go back to the council. Is there any closing comments from the council? Okay, so
Motion to adjourn.
do we have support to adjourn?
Support?
Okay, I think we can safely show 7 to adjourn. It is, let's see, 7:38. We will start our scheduled meeting at 8 o'clock tonight, at 8 o'clock. So, good night, Livonia.